Good evening. Welcome to another session from the Old Wise Asylum. Ooh, have we got some interesting things for you tonight, by golly, on this new moon? Oh, yes, we have. Anyway, what's been going on this week? I've not really paid attention for the simple reason I've been very busy putting together that conditional acceptance. And the week went on the old Thursday. So, interesting. And again, just to add, if you're looking to grasp the law, wow, what a difference it makes when you're off that magic garbage. A massive difference, that's all I can say. I found it so much easier, and it was actually pleasurable because it was so much easier to pull it together. And I'm quite impressed and happy with what I pulled together there. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So, good news all round, I have to say. Now then, tonight's stream. 6, 6 and 6. What does it mean? Well, whether you know it or not, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following this stream for the last 2.5 years, you entered the mystery school. And you have initiated, whether you know it or not. And tonight, you've reached the midpoint of a 7-year gig. Slightly less than a midpoint, actually, but you have, whether you like it or not. If you have been paying attention to the snippets that you've been given through all these live streams. Not right from the beginning, because of course you were all obsessed with the book script. But once we got into it, you've had so many different snippets. If you've paid attention, tonight may just make a lot of sense to you. And so we're going to have to look at a few pointers. We'll reappraise. I'll reappraise you with things that we've talked about that matter in relation to this subject. But I think it's time people started to realise what 666 actually means. You're going to be surprised that this is what it's all about, really. And this is why it's so important that today, while we're under these 4 horses, that you begin to reckon with this stuff and make the changes necessary. Otherwise, it's not going to be very pleasant. So there we go. So busy week, very busy week. Not really put much together in relation to a live stream apart from this thing. So we'll not have as much to talk about on what's going on in the world news and the UK news and the ritual, etc. Just one image really in the ritual, which is rather interesting and very telling. Because some people mentioned it last week, that potentially the super duper royal family at Prince level have got a bit of trouble going on. Now, that may be the case because, of course, they don't make mistakes. And an image that's been bandied about this week might just support that potential reality. So we'll have to have a look at that. Again, very interesting indeed. Now, we'll be going through some symbols as we get further on into the 666 teaching, because that's what it is. And for the last symbol, it would be interesting if you had a little mirror to hand, just to help you to grasp the symbolism of the last image that I'm going to show you in that thing. So I've told you that now, so that you, if you wish, you can go and get yourself a little mirror, because it will help. Of course, you can do it again after if you're watching it back. It doesn't really matter, but if you want the best effect, it would be wise to get yourself a little mirror, and so we can approach this image to show you exactly what it is you need to know. So, who's joined us tonight? Mew says hello. What, thumbs up off the old Mew. Are you Mew? Paul says good evening, Sean, and everyone. Good evening to you, Paul. Slipknot. All right, Sean, Jackie, and everyone. Hello to you, Slipknot. PY says evening all. Good evening, Paul. Join me vicious. Good day to you, me old China. Miroslav Nikic. Oh, good evening, good to be here, good to have you. My good man. Guitar Girl, evening everyone. Good evening to you, Guitar Girl. June says, good evening Sean and the chat. Good evening to you, June. And Kel says, so a bunch of 3 UFOs whizzing around the mine I work at this night shift. Interesting, yeah. I think if you look up there, there's a lot going on. Is there not? Are you near? What's the nearest military air force base to you, Kel? Here it's Wharton, at the Ribble Estuary, close to Blackpool, which is why a lot of things going on in Blackpool, and the reason why they've pulled in all the drug addicts, all the rebels, the misfits, everybody from Lancashire. If you've ever got in trouble in your own town, it's a Blackpool. It's completely Masonic, and they like to keep you there because they're using a lot of technology there on old Blackpool, and you're going to have a lot of these smackheads thinking they're talking to Anu and the likes, if you're living over there in old Blackpool. Kel says, just got home, morning here in Oz. Oh, you're in Oz? Oh, okay. So what's the closest military base you've got going on there, Kel? That might help you to verify whether they're real or whether, in fact, it's just this upgrading that's going on of the old, it's the aliens did it, Gulf. Yeah, and another means for you to give up control and responsibility for your own life. Is it not? It's somebody else did it. Anyway, we're going to get into that. PY Music says, welcome Miroslav Nikic. Yes. Jerry, son of Mick, Sean, all in chat, Dublin here. Hello, Jerry. Nice to see Dublin. You've had a bit of a victory this week, which is got to be good. That's well done. It shows that at least you're coming together. Because, of course, we're in a civilised country, and the way that we sort things out here is by civil means. And, of course, I would suggest probably the way that we need to go is to insist, by all means necessary, that if you're not born on the land, you don't get a penny. You don't get a car, you don't get an house. Simple as that. These bunch of Johnny-come-latelys are going to kick and fuss all day long about that kind of subject, but this is how civilization works. We say no, and we tell them what we want. So, not born on here, you don't get a penny. You don't get an house, you don't get a car, you get a dinghy back to where you come from, and that's it. And that's the way we need to start to move. But you've had a great victory this week in relation to the government trying to expand the idea of what a family is. So well done, Ireland. Well done indeed. In spite of the garbage that's been flooded into your country from a very angry North African bunch of fruit bats who the French ensured ate everybody. Because they were a terrible colonial power with the French. Terrible. And North Africa was their gig, and they certainly made a mess of the entire party. But not forgetting, the English crown has been running France since the Hanoverians, of which I've got coins and such that show that the Georges were actually not only the king of Great Britain, they were also the monarchs of France. So, again, it comes back, does it not, to this Prussian, Holy Roman Imperial bunch of Johnny-come-latelys known as the Holy See, collectively. The black nobility, the Venetians. You can't get away from it, can they? They can't get away from it. That's who they are, that's what they do. Lex says, evening Sean, good evening to you, Lex. The religion of gravity. Hello from Glasgow. Glasgow, how are you doing, me old China's up there in Glasgow? Good on you, nice to see you. Nice to see a bit of the old Scots coming down here and having a good gander. Nice one. And we have another one, Treen, she's here. I don't think she's on, but she's another one a little bit further down than Glasgow. Let's have a look, where are we there? Martin Glasgow says, hello everyone, hello to you Martin. Kerry says, love from Ireland, hello Kerry. Well done to you again, all you baddies over there. Well done indeed. It's good to see a victory in the old politics and showing up these Johnny-come-latelys for what they are at childcare Parliament in Ireland. Jolly groovy. It's not performing very well here on England. They're all thick. Liam says, hello, Liam. Welcome. David Grigg says, hi peeps, GTSY. GTSY. I'm not very good at these alphabet jobs, unless it's CIA, MI6. I know all them, FBI, but I'm not really sure what GTSI means, so if you can elaborate, that'll be good for me. Cos says, 1973, evening Sean, and we have the emoji with the tongue out and the wink. And he says, good evening Sean, and chat. And all Cos. Mew says, Sean Deeds arrived for the house this last week. Jolly groovy indeed. It's better to have him in your hands than in the hands, or safe, of a solicitor or officer of the court. Because it wouldn't surprise me, like we've just seen with these two police stations now being enveloped in flames as they destroy our domestic security, so they can start to pull in these contracted UN soldiers that have been piling in for what? Well, since the bug script began. So they've begun the attack on our own security. They've moved our troops out all over the show, anywhere apart from here. And you can see that coming. I cocked up last week and said that we should put these immigrants in the military. No, we definitely shouldn't unless we're sending them to Ukraine. So I take that back for what I said last week. So well done there, Mew. Good stuff. Anybody out there, if you bought your house, you need to get your deeds. Get your deeds. You want them in your hands. Your deeds. Don't forget, possession is 9/10 of the law. You don't want the old solicitors having anything, or the banks holding your deeds. Jew says, blessed Sunday, Sean. Good evening to you, Jew. Kel, Salisbury in Adelaide, 500 kilometres away, is the closest Air Force base, but only maritime aircraft, I think. Okay, maybe you should investigate that a little bit. How far away are you from Pine Gap? Because that's an interesting place. Apparently, if you... Well, never mind that. We're not going to get that. Opens up all kind of worms of whether the Earth's a globe or flat. So we're not getting into that. But apparently there's an energy line directly from Pine Gap to... What's that place up here? Well, I can't remember what it's called. Big Yank base. I can't remember what it's called offhand. So Salisbury in Adelaide, and what's the Air Force base called, by the way, that's close to you? I might know something about it. Kel says, just uploading the vid to YouTube now. Okay. Guitar Girl says, how did you get your deeds, Moopit? We were told we couldn't get them when mortgage was paid. We couldn't get them. Well, of course you can get them. You can get them when you've paid 75%. I think. Don't be saying you can't, mate. Get them. Get them. And work out how you put them on so they have no choice. So I don't know, they shouldn't be telling you that kind of malarkey. Jerry Son of Mick says, yes sir, a fight won, the battle goes on. Yeah, but at least, you know, you're on it. You're getting somewhere. The English here are pathetic. All they're doing is dancing around going, Gaza, Gaza, Israel, Israel, like it's got something to do with us. Fuck off. And that's swearing for a Sunday. So, David says, Belgium was nasty too. Yeah, it was, yeah. And that knobend at the Congo, that guy was a complete psycho. I can't forget his name. Mike says, evening Sean, good evening to you, Mike. Solvamist says, hello mate, hello to you Solvamist, welcome. Lewis Dunkley says, Wagwan Sean. Wagwan. You've got all these words going on, I don't understand them. What's crack? Wagwan. PY says, good to see you. Ah, good man. Solvamist, good to see you. It's good to see you all, actually. Michael Jr. says, I Sean Isle on Sunday night. Otherwise, Asylum can't beat it. Ooh, you're going to like tonight. I think. Solomon says, I live in Salisbury in Adelaide too. Right. Well, you know the Yanks shifted all the tech testing away from Utah and all that area where they did all the westerns into the Australian desert a long time ago. So it's all been going on there, and it's so big nobody has a clue what's going on. Solving Miss says Pine Gap is only 899 kilometres away. Michael Jr. says, hi Sean, I all Sunday night at the Wise Asylum. Oh yeah, we've done that one. Pine Gap, yeah, done that. Anthony says, evening Sean and crew, hope you're all well. And Andrew, thank you very much indeed for your kind donation there last week. Thank you. And to Jane as well, thank you so much. And to Mew. So thank you. Great timing is the best I can say, because it kept my mind perfectly right and on the balance for putting that conditional acceptance together. So thank you so much. I don't think you realise just how much that helped there. Edinburgh Airbase. Edinburgh, okay. I've not actually come across that, as far as I'm aware. Andrea of the House Fallon. Good evening, Sean. Good evening, Andrea. David Gregg says, Leutcharge Airbase is close to me. Is that Leutcharge or... Right, so again, I'm thick. I haven't heard that one either. Mew says, I had to go to land registry, £7. Okay. Oh, well, maybe they... Well, I don't know, but usually the solicitor's hold them with the bank. So have you got a copy there, Mew? You want to check that? You don't want the copy, you want the original. Andrea says, evening all. And Mark says, hi Sean, hello Mark. Kel, hi Kel, says Solving Miss. Jerry's going to make, oh ye, the siege of Jedottville. Oh, siege of Jedottville. There's bloody funny language going on here tonight, chaps. I haven't got a clue what you're on about. So we've got Louis says, any updates on the 5G situation in the UK? Well, I'm pretty sure they switched them on. I have actually, somebody this week has got one close to one of those big things and he's getting headaches all the time. Now you can mitigate this stuff. Now one way to do it is if you're getting it, so pick your walls that's coming in, you want copper wire spirals on your wall and you plug it into the earth in your socket. You can also create a spiral mat, plug it into your earth socket and put your feet on it, your bare feet on it when you're sat in your chair. You've got to remember with this stuff, all this technology, it has a carrier wave. Okay, it's the same with your radio, it's the same with your television. The basis of these technology is a carrier wave. It's what they put on the carrier wave that's causing the problems. Now, copper is a way to mitigate it. It won't get rid of the carrier wave, so it's still coming through, but it can demolish whatever it is that carrier wave is carrying. So that's one way of looking at it. This week we've got rid of the Wi-Fi where I am and we've gone on to cables, which is good because in most cases I never go on the Wi-Fi, I don't like it. I turn it off at the router, I don't always cable up. It's always a lot faster anyway, so it's well worth doing. Not just for that, but for the speed that you're going to achieve as well. Louis says, also been off the tap water for a couple of months, got glass bottle spring water, feeling amazing. Excellent, yeah. Because remember, the chlorine gets rid of the prana and it makes sure that your cells are not getting hydrated because of the chlorine and whatever else they've got in it. So yeah, great move. The best thing you can do to yourself is hydrate your cells. You get your cells hydrated. And sipping the water is the best way because it doesn't even go in your stomach. Your pipe down here takes it all in. If you can load up your stomach, you're just going to be pissing. You want it to, it takes it in on your pipe as you're swallowing it. So sips is the best way to hydrate yourself, Once it goes in your stomach, it's still going to get to you, but it's not the same as sipping it and letting it just absorb it in your pipe. Where are we there? David says, lookers. Lookers? Wait. God grief, we are getting cold tonight, aren't we? Whoa, must be new moon. Kel says, video just uploaded 4K, but it's only showing up in 360 so far. And what video was that, Chuck? And I live near Parabanks, Kel. Are you far away? So, okay. Jerry, son of Mick. He's laughing. Right. Jerry, good stuff. And Phil, comfortably dumb, says, evening, Sean and chat. Good evening, Phil. And Kel says, Mildura, mate. 350 kilometres away. Jerry Son of Mick, ground. Are we talking about 5G grounding? Because that's what you're doing, you're grounding. Remember, you're an electromagnetic system, okay? So your thoughts and all these things are creating the energy in your aura. And it stays in its closed system. You've got to earth it. Now, the best way to do it is get your hands or your feet on soil, on grass. That earths you straight away, and it'll earth all that shitty energy that's going on in your aura. But another way for you in your house is a nice spiral copper cable. You know, you want the copper, you don't want the cable on it. Put it on the floor, stick it into the earth in your socket, and put your bare feet on it. And that, again, will earth and ground you. And all this nonsense that's going on isn't going to have the same effect. So there's lots of different ways of playing with this stuff. Lead is another if you're really close and getting hammered. I did live in a place for almost 2 years where they were only, 400 yards away. I had to put a big screen up right across the wall. Because as I was going up the stairs, every time I entered the house, all of a sudden I could feel my heartbeat in my head, like a pulse, boom, 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 boom. But once I put that up, it just, it cleared it. So you've got to think outside the box and don't think that you can't, you know, you're helpless and there's nothing you can actually do about it. Of course you can do a lot about it. Mew says, Slipknot and I are going to come over for a coffee. If you are free Friday, I'll bring you what I received. I'll message you, no problem. Yep, no worries. Here's reviews. Are there any good natural springs to collect water near Accrington or in Lancs in general? So yeah, but you'd probably have to boil it. But on the coppice, there's 3 lodges. The top lodge, as it overflows into the other ones, take it at that level, and absolutely delicious. And I only know that because an homeless guy I knew living up there a few years ago actually made me a brew from it, and I was absolutely gobsmacked at how delicious the tea tasted. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. But of course, if I'm making a brew, which is very rare, I will use Evian in a pan and do it that way. And the tea tastes like it used to taste when you were a kid. It's just phenomenal. Same with coffee. You make a coffee, I'll pan the water and do it that way. Never ever do tap water. Unless, but if I'm at somebody's house and they make me a brew, I'll have one. And some, but like different areas, you can tell that it's disgusting in different areas in the same town. So that's something I noted by doing that. Solomon says Adelaide has water more undrinkable than any third world country. Well, why is that? You've got massive underground that they don't tell you about. Massive, what do they call, aquifers. They're huge, actually. I know you guys, it's all about water, 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 but that's because they've hid it from you. Get drilling, digging, and get down into that, I would. If I had my own land over there in Oz, I'd be digging. And I want my own well. Just make sure they can't poison it. Untitled says, hello, Sean. Hello, Untitled. Sorry I didn't get back to you late this week, but I've been absolutely mulled out this week. It's been quite intense. Martin Glasgow, court orders orange 4G switch off in France, cows are dying. Really? Yeah, it's not good. Slipknot says earthing blanket for your bed. You can do the same with your bed. Yeah, and stick it into the earth in your socket. You know, that's what the earth's for. It would do the same. Don't stick it live. Don't be doing that. You'll be dancing. You will be dancing. You just make sure it's in the earth. So make sure you know what you're doing. Of course, I don't want anybody electrocuting themselves. But then I've done that quite often, and it's not bad. It wakes you up. It does wake you up. Martin says, court orders on... Oh, I've done that one. Slipknot, earthing blanket. Yep, done that as well. Here's reviews. That's awesome. Thanks, Sean. Hello from Padiham. Padiham, hello there, my old China. We're in there today. We're over in Padiham today. Jenny Son of Mick, yes. And you can remove the live and neutral pins from the plug so you know you're safer. Well, just, you know, you've got an earthing section in the socket. Just stick it in with that. And you should be fine. You can use this site to find local springs that others have found. Some of reviews and water test report. There's quite a lot on the tops of Aussie springs, natural springs as well. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? We've become so dependent on these systems. We've sort of lost the ideas of actually we can go for a walk in the countryside, find a spring, and fill up a load of bottles. Now, I've always thought that if the time comes where I can't get my Evian, that's exactly what I'd do. And I'd create my own filter system. You know, sand, pebble, and just get bigger and bigger and smaller, whichever way you want to look at it. And filter it through that. And then you can distill it. And if you add salt to the distilled water, there's absolutely no detrimental effect because distilling water does remove its electricity capacity. But if you add salt, but then you're going to have a taste, aren't you? I like the Evian because it tastes delicious. It's an awesome taste. But yeah, you've got to think. You've got to start thinking, haven't you? So dependent on all this garbage, and yet you know it's poisoning everything. I picked up something today. All your Campbell's soups, even the Ritz, you know, the Ritz crackers that it's all got this shit in it. These insects. You really don't want to be touching that processed food. So the farmers now, they're getting excited over here. I'm part of the game, and I put up there, look, if I open a shop, have we got enough farmers to supply me? Unfortunately, I'm a little bit disappointed, but they haven't took it on, so what are they playing at? But then through another guy who's very in touch with the farmers, he's saying, yeah, I can sort that out. So, again, these are things that we need to start to consider. Open a shop in your town selling nothing but farm produce. Everybody will start to flock that's got a brain. You're not bothered about the ones that haven't, but you're supplying people that you need to keep in good health, like yourself, so that there's plenty of us and we're keeping ourselves in good order. That's what you need to start to be doing. You do it. Set up a shop. Get the farmers to supply you eggs, chickens, meat. I mean, you can even have freezers. Get big freezers, get it in the freezers, and people are buying it frozen. It's only been frozen for a couple of days. You can even do it that way. You know, you've got to think like this. So I run a cafe a couple of years ago. There's a lot more involved in these things than you think, especially when it comes to wastage. It's very difficult to supply and demand without wasting anything. But we bought the best of everything. Everything we had in that shop, the cafe, was top quality. So we were getting Oddie's tea cakes because they are just top quality. They've got the 4 ingredients: water, yeast, salt and flour. None of all the shit. So we knew people like that. That's what we offered. It were banging. But then the landlord saw that and doubled the rent, and we had to let it go. So there is a lot involved in it, but the biggest learning curve is supply and demand and getting that right. Because you want everything fresh, because then it's delicious. You know, no microwave in the place at all. That's not there. But yeah, farmers, they want to sell direct to you. Get shops opened in every town. It'd go crazy, and not only would you be selling farmers stuff you did expand, you'd be selling all sorts. And before long, people would be coming to you, not because of the cost, but because of the quality and the fact that they know they're not getting this shit in there, you know? Obviously, I'd want to know what's going into these animals that the farmers are selling, but I know that some of these farmers, they don't, you know, they look after their animals and they're not fed shit. They're not being injected with all sorts of shit neither. And as I've said to the farmers, you guys need to get rid of DEFRA, which means they need to get rid of the term farmer. Farmer is a legal term, and you're bound as a statutory creature. So again, these are things that farmers are going to have to start to comprehend. And I've been putting it on for them, and they're picking it up. So this is how it works. Forget the system. Forget the wankers. Fuck them. They're assholes. They're not working for you. They're loading us up with fucking immigrants. They're trying to undermine us so they can replace us. You know, there's a lot of us out here that didn't take the book script. We didn't suck it up. And we need to keep ourselves healthy. As healthy as we possibly can. You know, we keep our immune systems good, then we're going to mitigate what they're spraying. We can't stop them spraying until we get some ground-to-air missiles from Vlad. I've asked him a couple of times if he'll supply us with some ground-to-air missiles, but so far he hasn't responded. So I'm a little bit worried that Vlad might not actually be a bit of a rebel. But anyway, we'll have to see. But he's not supplied me with any yet. There's no point talking to Israel. They need them. They're too busy killing everybody over there in the Middle East. So they're not going to give us anything. No good going to Zelensky. He's just taking everything. He wants it all for himself. Of course, the laundry and blah, blah, blah. So I'm asking around, but nobody seems to want to supply us with ground-to-air missiles. Unfortunately, as yet. Where are we there? Water distillery is good. Yes. My daughter uses it. And there's definitely no negative effects that I can see, and she's not reported any. Jerry Sonamic says, in Australia they were diverting water to the large corporate growers, denying those that could afford it. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what they've been doing. I mean, you've got massive aquifers. Under the majority of Australia, by the way, just under the surface, it's just water. That's where all your water is. It's not like you haven't got any. It's just all underground. So, did you watch Children of the Men? I watched it, and then after 40 minutes, I was absolutely going insane. I got the gist of it, but sort of thing, yeah. I struggle to watch films because within 20 minutes, I can pretty much see the whole gig. It's very rare I watch a film where what I can see in first 10 minutes doesn't play out and pan out. But I did watch it, and I had 40 minutes, and I couldn't watch anymore. I wanted to go and join the real loony asylum. I wanted to jump out at Wise Asylum and do some more. But yeah, I got the gist of it. Yeah, possible. Who knows? So I did watch it, Profiler X, yes. 44 minutes of it. Mick says, I sprained my ankle this week badly. 2 days later, all healed after sleeping in a bed with earthen pillow and sheet. It works. It does. It absolutely works. Now, I'll tell you what I've noticed with giving up the magic is I seem to be a bit fatigued. And I don't know whether it's because I'm not in such a deep sleep, but I'm dreaming like an absolute madman. I mean, the dreams are so real, and I'm sort of like, they're lucid. I'm in it, and I'm active in it, you know? And then the other night, I actually formed the dreams before I went to sleep. So my thought patterns that I were having, when I went to sleep, that's what I was dreaming. It was weird. So it looks like I've missed out a lot of stuff with the dreams kind of thing. So interesting as well. That's interesting. Use copper cups for water. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm thinking of looking to get one for me caustic. So yeah. Louis says, did you say they have bug chitin exskeleton in Ritz biscuits? Yes. Yeah. It's on my Twitter. I did put it on the Facebook, but a lot of times when you pick up a link to Twitter from Facebook, it doesn't come up. Yes, Ritz, all Campbell's, soups and tin stuff. Anything sold at Aldi. Everything at Aldi, in fact. And Lidl's following suit, so you can guarantee they all are. I mean, I don't buy that shit anyway. But in Lidl, the Newgate, where they have their own stuff, there's no shit in it. But I haven't checked for quite a while, so. And beans. If you want beans, if you like baked beans, you cannot beat Lidl's own. They're absolutely... They taste like Heinz used to taste. Like, if I had Heinz beans, which I haven't had for years, it took skin off inside of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? But the little baked beans are delicious. They taste like beans, baked beans used to taste. Right. Goodman Profile X. I couldn't remember the name of that film. Yeah. But I don't like... Films are shit. They're just so tacky these days. I stopped watching films in the 90s, if I'm honest, really. No forms, no food. Well, it's a bit of a fib here, to be frank, because everything you're eating from supermarkets comes from Spain. Marks and Spencer's is Israel, and a lot of it comes from South America. Because our farmers have been subsidised not to farm. Since the 70s, this has been going on. All they had to do were cut the hedges once every 2 years to receive the subsidies. This is why you go in country and it looks beautiful. They're spending all the money with the fancy tractors, cutting the edges and keeping the roadsides clear. That was the gig. Do that, you get the subsidies. So our farmers are a little bit, but let's give them benefit of the doubt, and let's start afresh, and let's say, okay, You want a farm? We'll buy. And that's the way, because not everybody can buy a farm, me included. You know, not everybody has an allotment. Not everybody has a garden. So we do need the farmers, but we need them to be farming, not sitting on the backside, cutting edges, driving around in Rolls Royces. It's not acceptable. Mark says, Vlad. Vlad, yes. Vlad the Impaler. You see, he hasn't sent me any, he won't send me any. So I'm a bit miffed. Does anybody know anybody else that can supply ground to air missiles? Because we do need to be knocking these planes heads at the sky. And then we could miss every now and again, and when they're doing the council meeting. You know what I mean? And things like that. It'd be an accident. It'd be an accident. Anyway. PY says, the dreams will become less, bro. Well, I don't know. They seem to be getting more. All horses last night. I don't know. I hope a bit. Everywhere I went was just full of horses, and one of them got hold of my arm. They were trying to drag me somewhere, and I'm thinking. And I had a big brick in my hand. I'm thinking, I'm going to smack it out here. But I was like, no, it's my friend. So I don't know what that were about, but it's like, I'm starting to think I have to start working out these bizarre dreams, because obviously there's a message in them somewhere. But yeah, but they don't seem to be getting any less, I'll say that. They're not bad dreams, don't get me wrong. I've had one or two, bit iffy. But on the whole, they're quite good. Fatigue from weed withdrawal is normal. Is it? Excellent. I thought it might, because you're in a deep sleep, aren't you, when you smacked out your head on magic cabbage. And that's a big part of why we like it, isn't it? We get a good night's sleep. Guitargo says, most in beans and soups have the modified maize starch now. Not Lidl. It's seriously, the only stuff you can find garbage in Lidl is some cakes and things like that. And they do a lot of specials, so you'll get a lot of Italian. You'll get Spanish. And I don't buy the Spanish, because I don't like the Spanish people. I don't like them, and I don't trust them. When you consider that Spain, per population, is by far the biggest nation of cancer, and has been for quite a long time. So what they're doing to the Spanish, I don't know, and they've been doing it for a long time. So that's worth keeping in mind. You don't really want anything from Spain, and most of it's coming from Spain. Your veg and your fruit, which are now sprayed with this shit. David says, is white, David Swimmer is white. Heinz barley have any bean juice in them? Heinz barley have any bean? I kid you not, last time I had some Heinz beans, a couple of years ago, it was taking the skin off the inside of my mouth. So what the hell's in that, I don't know. But Heinz is a bag of shit anyway. They've been poisonous for donkey's years. Slipknot says, sorry, factor. Hugo Boss says, evening and blessings to all. Good evening, Hugo. Sense offender. Ayo. Ayo. And PY says, lol, it's leading you to water. Maybe. I don't know what they were doing, but there were tons of them everywhere. Everywhere. They were just horses. They were like worrying. They were like judging about all over the shop. Ginny Louise McGovern says, hello, Wise Asylum, it's Janie here in Liverpool. Hiya, Janie. I'm not ignoring you, Chuck. Don't worry. I don't always look at my emails until later of an evening. But I'm not ignoring you, kid. AKA TPR Liverpool. I've kind of locked myself out of Google. Oh. Well, that's clever. They locked me out for 5 years. Which is why I didn't do anything, videos or nothing. They just locked me out. I couldn't get in anything. And I'm so lovely. Chris Hart says, it's part of coming off weed, vivid dreams, it'll pass. Well, thank you, Chris. Hugo says, dreams are connection to the spirit world, good, bad. Yeah, I know they are. So that's why I'm not too fussed about whether they pass or not. I just believe I have to work it out. I have to work it out. You know, this is the way it goes, isn't it? Right, let's have a little look at what's going down in La La Land. So, well, the ritual, interesting. Okay, this is an interesting image that's come out this week, but very telling. And very, very telling. Indeed, what's that come up for? Oh wait, there's more than one. So wait a minute, I'm talking out of me. Ring again. So we need to pass that over, and I need to come out of that so it doesn't muck up. Kabbalah of secret disciples at the palace claims guru. Marcus Weston, a Kabbalah teacher based in London, said the members of the royal family have signed confidentiality agreements and were being taught about the ancient belief. They're not being taught, they've known it forever. So that's a gig that's going on with these fruit bats. Well, they are Phoenicians. Venetians. And King Charles puts on a brave face after fury at Kate's uncle spilling secrets on CBB. What an absolute load of shit. It's 100% a game to big them up. Are they just, can they not actually tell the truth, these people? No, can they, heck? So, nobody's furious at him spilling the beans because he's bigging them up. Now, look at this. Look at that to the right. No wedding ring or engagement ring on the Killing Kittens flossy. And these people don't do mistakes, remember. It's important what ugly children they've got. So that's the image I really wanted to show you. No rings. There's a reason they've done that. So what's actually going on? As she told them to piss off, she don't want to be queen. Jerry says, I had 2 dreams over the past couple of weeks with horses, but they were horses I owned 20 years ago. Lewis says they all have Kabbalah teachers, even Trump. And Profile X, the Kate pictures are fake AI. Have you got evidence of that, me old China? So, but the no ring is very important. They don't do anything. I know I've seen that the cuff seems to be a bit iffy, doesn't it? On the kid here, this cuff here, when you get a close up in that area, seems to be just a little bit iffy. But I mean, they Photoshop all the time. You get into JFK's family, and almost all the pictures that were ever out in JFK's time and after were all photoshopped. Like, they were never together as a family. They were all photoshopped. Guitar Girl says, agree, that Kate Pick is doctored. Look at Lewis's hands. What is going on there? Jimmy, is that your name on Facebook? Says Mew, Ginny. Okay. Right, so that's the ritual side of things. On Friday, National Highways confirmed the national speed limit would resume after pollution was found to have fallen in the areas. The organisation admitted they couldn't fully attribute this to the speed restrictions, explaining that the introduction of hybrid and electric cars could have played a part in these results. Well, I didn't even know they put restrictions on it, which I don't take a blind bit of notice of anyway, because the outside lane is mine, and we only stop at red line. Amanda Rippon, the judge, delayed the sentencing of a paedophile so he could go on holiday. And this guy was found guilty of 3 counts of sexual assault and 1 assault by penetration of a 12-year-old girl, part of a rape gang. He didn't receive any jail time from her and just 180 hours of community service. I got 250 hours for a blag. And 85% of murders last year in London were carried out by immigrants and foreigners, with the majority being Muslim. And of course, he's not really holding that up, but that's exactly what he should be doing, because he is the mirror and he has the figures. So those are the figures from last year that the Crown agent, Khan, should be actually telling us. And interestingly, Penny Mordaunt, who they keep putting up for potential Tory leader, guess what? Her brother's a little pedo. Well, surprise, surprise. Is anybody surprised? It just gets worse, doesn't it, for these fruit bats? She's a WF girl, right up the arse of Charlie. Nah, we don't want that. And Green Energy Tycoon gave 700,000 to Labour after receiving 15 million from Tories. Yeah, left and right, Crown agents, all the lot of them, sharing it out. So one hand gives it to opposition. Nah, yeah, it's allowed, because of course they're all pissing in the same pot. And Suella says, demands urgency legislation to ban Palestine marches, London now a no-go area. Is it? I don't think it is. Might be little parts of it where they keep praying to the floor. Because of course, they don't want all these mosques that they built now. They now want to pray out road. I mean, come on guys, you're like babies. It's just so pathetic. We're living in 21st century. And Cameron's been urged to stop sniping at Israel. Well, if he's sniping at Israel, it's a blank, because he's always been a member of the Friends of Israel. And of course, he handed MI6 and MI5 over to Mossad, which we saw with him having the pig sucking his winkle. Them images, you remember. And there we have Cameron and another shitbag, even though I like him, Jeremy Clarkson, he's an elitist. He's a proper son of a bitch elitist. And a lot of people are saying his farm gig is a blag, and obviously he wants to get his mitts into this coming farm protest game. And the Scottish First Minister, Humza Yousaf, has been accused of having conflict of interest over overruling his officials to give a donation to an aid agency while his family were trapped in Gaza. So he just decided to do what the hell he wants, to give 250k of Scots hard-earned cash to Gaza, and just said so off to everybody else. But of course then, he condemns it as an outrageous smear that anybody should pull him on this, because he's a smackhead. He looks like he's on Wiz there, actually. Maybe he's shifted off the smack to Wiz. Maybe he's been watching the Wise Asylum. So maybe that's what's going on. So it's outrageous that you dare say it. And of course, now it's Islamophobia as well. He's outraged that you're bothered. Oh, now he looks like he's back on smack. Look, he's got the smack eyes. And it's now Islamophobia. So how dare you? And it's Islamophobia. I mean, all these Crown agents, which is what they are, all of them, you've got to see it like that. And back to Penny's pervert brother. World news. French President Emmanuel Macron lashes out after 2 women came forward accusing his wife of being transgender. The women claimed they were intimidated by authorities who allegedly covered up the state secret. Macron was only 15 years old when he started banging his teacher. She was his teacher. How twisted. Look at that nose. There, bottom right. He's got a big conk. And he's been forced to respond to the fervent speculation that his wife is a factor man. And he was only 15 years when he started dating 40-year-old Brigitte Azira, who was his school teacher. So she's his mentor. She's obviously the secret society player, and banging him at 15, the dirty cow. Or dirty boy. And on the back of what Macron's saying about sending troops in to fight Russia, Russia says France must be wiped off the face of the earth. Can you see why we don't really want to be going back to Europe? You know, he's off his tits, this fella. He wants to beat the shit out of Vlad. Well, no, I don't want to get involved in that crap. You know, we don't want to be getting involved. We have a war going on here. The part of Hawaii that got destroyed by the wildfires is the prime land next to luxury mega mansions. How the hell the fire knew to avoid the parts of the islands where these celebrities have their multi-dollar houses is beyond comprehension. But yet it didn't avoid them. There were some houses in between their houses that actually got whacked. Winfrey, Bezos, Gaga, Ellison, and the rest. Iran's monarchists have moved closer to Israel, which they see as a key ally in their fight to reinstate the Pahlavis. But yet the Jews in Iran are upstarting the Israel who were stating that, and the American evangelicists who were trying to say that Iran wants to get rid of the Jews. Well, the Jews in Iran are saying, I don't think so. And meet Isabel, technological director of the WF, oh yeah, and also Ghislaine's sister, and that's Isabel S. Maxwell. Yeah, that's another ugly in that, isn't it? She's not as fit as Ghislaine. She's, yeah, ugly. She's obviously the ugly sister. Now, this has been an interesting gig this week. Jews must be feared rather than loved, says Rabbi Shmuley, who seems to have genital hair all over his face. So he thinks the Jews were loved, and now he thinks that actually we should be feared. Oh, look who his best mate is. Oh dear, not Robert F. Kennedy. He's a proper shithead, him playing on the back of his 2 brothers. What a complete shithead. His best mate, and there's his daughter, Shmuley's daughter. You're never going to believe what they're dealing, what their prize business is. Because he's a rabbi, remember. And like Travis Lubovic, sex toys and lube. Made in Israel. That's the Shmuley. With the genital all over his face. I think he sticks it on every morning, to be fair. Because every day you see him, he looks like he's got more and more genital hair all over his face. So that's, yeah, oh no, Trump's vaccine rhetoric sends chills through public health circles. Trump were big against vaccines back in the day. For many, many years, I was quite impressed with him before he came anywhere close to putting himself up as president. Yeah, so, you know, this is Trump. everybody loves. So this is his latest tweet. Pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to help beat cancer. Turning setback into comeback. You're welcome, Joe. 9-month approval time versus 12 years that it would have taken you. So yeah, interesting. And there's Trump and his dad. They think we're Christians, Dad. I know, son. We Jewed them all. He says that's his dad, and his family were all about brothels back in the gold rushes in America. That's where they made the money. And of course, Trump is in debt always to the likes of Sheldon Adelson and the system that's continuing now that he's dead. And it's like I said to you last week, you know, if you actually read Hitler's works, his books, his rhetoric, before he became Chancellor, Hitler was telling you everything you wanted to hear. And then what happened when he got in? Well, who else is doing that? Telling you everything you want to hear. Precisely. So what's he going to do when he gets in? Because I believe he's going to get in. I don't think there's any doubt about that at all, to be fair. Now then, so I've tried to reorganise the Streamlabs so that I can pause images. Now, to do that, you have to assign keys on your keyboard. But for some reason, it won't let me do that. So I'm going to try something different tonight when we go through this 666. Because it gets a bit annoying, doesn't it, if I'm halfway through reading something and it buggers off. So I don't really want that to happen. So I'm going to try. I'll have to upload each one as we need it. So it might be a bit time consuming as we started off, but I think it'll be better. So what are you guys saying? The light is different on her face. It's different on the kids as well. But they do Photoshop everything. They've always done this. But the ring missing. There's some. Nothing these people do is not ritual. You've got to think in those terms. There's no rings on them fingers. So what's going on there? Ginny says, Mupit, no, I'm not on Facebook. Okay. They put restrictions on a ring road here, but they said it couldn't be policed. So put them in as recommendations. Slipknot says Shuby is handler. Yeah, definitely. It's age 40 and he's 15 and he's a teacher. And now they're saying that she's a fella. Well, what kind of a twisted fella's in? He's a complete fruitcake. Like the rest of them. Louis says, can you explain what a Crown agent is? So they're all operating for the Crown. Whether that's Labour, Greens, UKIP. Now, the way that politics works is the Privy Council choose the cabinet members. So it doesn't matter which party's in power. The ones that are going to be assigned to the cabinet of each government are Privy Council trained, Privy Council appointed. And Crown agent is, we're talking about the inner city of London, the Crown Temple, the unincorporated Crown. Yeah, the office of monarch was abolished in 1649 by Oliver Cromwell. And the baronet repicked it up and pretended that it was still in together. Because, of course, back in those days, the people wanted back their old system, which they saw as a monarchy. So Cromwell did a lot of bad things. He handed us over to the moneylenders, of course, but he actually, in the system that he were on, he did a lot of good things as well. But it were all sidelined. Now, Charles II did something interesting. He actually annulled the livery companies in London. And the 12 livery companies are the power in the inner city of London as far as corporations go. So Charles II annulled it, but then, of course, William of Orange reinstituted it. So Charles II, although he was a puppet king, looks like towards his power, we're actually trying to put things back in order. So yeah, that's just a bit of interesting gig. I'll pick up the details on Friday when you grab a coffee, so no problem. Where are we there? Yeah, lots of yids in Iran. Misra his and in Isfahan, yes. I actually did a video a long time ago when I was giving George Galloway a bit of a gig, and it's got his picture on. And we went through a lot of stuff like that just to show that basically the Shiite Muslims don't actually leave Iran. You don't find big chunks of them everywhere. There's a massive difference between the Shia and the Sunni in relation to how they see Muhammad and especially those around him. We have a badge biter collective problem. Bagel biter collective problem. Bagel biter, okay. Well, I put a bagel out for a bird the other day at a mate's house, and bird wouldn't touch it. So what the hell's in them? Geopolitical says, didn't Trump allegedly convert on the wishes of his daughter and her other half? Well, the other half, Kushner, he was cited as potentially a big player in this new system that they're about to launch. The Bart Black Sheep, says Jerry. Jerry's trying to make bar. Okay. Anthony says, I've heard somewhere Hitler used the slogan, make Germany great again. Well, wouldn't surprise me. But if you actually study Hitler's stuff, which I have, Mein Kampf and all the stuff and his rhetoric, you wouldn't disagree with it. You wouldn't disagree. If he were up there now saying it today, in respect of our problems, you would go for it. Hook, line and sinker. Just as the Americans are with Trump. Although I think he's starting to fall apart a bit, especially with his rhetoric on the old bugs thing. Because he's proud of the fact that he launched all that, so... A Trump slogan, make America great again. Yeah, exactly. Well, that were picked up, that were given to him. See, in 2015, his campaign was failing. Enter Robert Mercer, Renaissance Technologies. And they've been collecting data through Facebook and all the social media since 2008. And they were picking up on the buzzwords that the Americans were using on the social media. And make America great again was by far the greatest. And so they just gave him 3 phrases that they knew would tap into the Americans. And as we can see, it worked a treat. Now, don't get me wrong, Trump did a lot of good stuff. His rhetoric is amazing and fantastic. It's exactly what every country needs to be doing. But what's it going to be when he gets in? Because these people are ultra right-wing Zionists. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you've got all these immigrants and you've got the crazy side of Islam soaking into this game, creating... See, look, this is what's happened in the last 30 years, since the 90s, and David Icke's a part of this. People have become aware that the elites are not what they seem. They're not, and people are now completely aware of it. They need a diversion. They need you to hate something else. And Islam is that gig. Yeah, that's what's going on. And they're doing it. Now, not your average Muslims. I mean, I live in a town full of Muslims and they're not running around giving it this shit. The political side of it is, and I've had quite a few spats over the week with a couple of shitbags that are chameleons pretending to be something that they're not. And now all they're concerned about is fucking Gaza. You know, and the title of the script they're on is Ayman needs to change, yet all they're concerned about is fucking Gaza. Well, Ayman isn't going to change by talking about Gaza or Israel or the Middle East in general, is it? So they're all full of shit, they're all shilling, and it's everywhere, right down to your local politics. David says... Anybody listen to Mark Windows here? I find him very informative. I haven't actually heard of him. Anthony says, as Trump's slogan make America... I've done that one. Even the birds know. They do. It wouldn't touch it. I thought, oh yeah, I'll give it. Because all I could find in my mate's house, a bagel. And I threw it out and it just turned its nose up at it. It didn't even go anywhere near it, so it must have stunk or something. Jerry says, I do, David, and I watched him use back and all relevant. So what's he called? Mark Windows. Okay. Profile X, crown equals Keither in the Tree of Life. It does, but they've obviously inverted it. But we've discussed that on previous videos. Because as I've said, if you've been following this, and you've not just been after entertainment side of things, and you've been paying attention, you've been being initiated in the mystery school anyway, whether you like it or not. But you've got to have been paying attention. And tonight you've reached a major point in that grasp on this place and we're going to present it. I'm going to present it to you. John Smith says, I am the father of the vaccine and I deserve a lot of credit, Donald J. Trump. It's not good, is it? Because people know what's what. We know. Is why, indeed, Jerry, yeah, absolutely. Revelation 3:11, so that no one will take your crown. Who declared a pandemic on 3:11? Well, and 3:22 is another important. That's Skull and Bones, and we're coming up to it, aren't we? 22nd of the 3rd. There's always some major shit goes on the old 22nd of March, so be aware of that as well. And Skull and Bones, of course, is the order of death, so it's always something crazy. April the 19th is another. It's a sacrificial date with fire. Yeah. So what were that David Koresh? You remember that? That was 19th of April. You just Google 19th of April events, and you'll be surprised. This is how you can start to see how these dates to these people are so important. Mark Windows on the Word on YT, brilliant. Okay, I might have a look at that. Jerry Son of Mick, funny that John Smith, I saw someone in one of America's inquiries banging on saying warp speed. Use are at it since the 60s. Well, they started the shot game in the 50s. I've done quite a few reports on that, exactly what went on and who were playing it out. And actually, one of the main guys was a guy from Blackpool. Interesting. And actually, it was studying his father, who were part of a big art side of things, that I learned about the massive influx of Russian Jews, or pretend Jews, from 1888 here. Stopped by an Act of Parliament in 1915. The Jews that lived here already were going fucking nuts because they were saying, who in the world are these fruit bats? They're not Jews in any way, shape or form. And of course, they took over the lodges after they killed all their men. And here we are today. And we're going to go through that in a moment. Hillsborough 1989 ritual. Absolutely, it was a ritual. They had to stop. Saturdays were terrifying for the security forces because on Saturday you had millions and millions of pissed up males roaming around every city and every town going to football. They had to get rid of that. Premier League we won, but there were 3 events where Fire weren't there at one of them. There were Hillsborough and then there were one over in Europe. And what did they get from that? We have to all seat it. There's too many of you at these football matches. And then the next move with Premier got rid of all the local clubs. Yeah, Masonic in its entirety. The police were absolutely controlling that to make sure that there were massive deaths. I watched both of those, the Sheffield one and Hillsborough, live. And I could see, because at them days my mind were open to this stuff and I could see exactly what they were up to. So yeah, absolutely, sacrifice to gain something else. You know, a problem, as David Icke says, reaction, solution. Solution was we have to all seat it. Half in the amount, well, less than half of the amount of people in these stadiums then than were allowed before. I mean, I used to go to watch Blackburn when I was younger, and you know, if you were at Blackburn End, you had to be careful because there were that many people in packed up, and the wave of it, it'd lift you up, and then boom, if you got on floor, you would be in serious trouble. But it would part at crack, you know, and it's like danger, isn't it? You like that danger. It's dangerous, you'll nearly kill you and do it again. That's what males do, you know. The more dangerous it is, the more you have to do it again until it's not dangerous anymore because you've conquered it. And Bradford, that's it. We're at Sheffield Wednesday, one at Sheffield teams, but yeah, Bradford. Now, when I looked into that back then, which I did, they hadn't cleaned under those terraces. For years, it was full of paper, plastic, so it went up like an absolute bomb. Yeah? So, yeah, setups created a long time in the making. Yeah, so absolutely. Joy Me Vicious says, sorry, it traumatised our city, says Ginny. Yeah, absolutely. Like 9/11 did. That traumatised the entire West. That debacle, 9/11, they did not close the doors on Cheyenne Mountain, though when 14 were dead in the US, they shut her up, sent all the airliners to depart in the desert, tried to end all life. The day before 9/11, if you remember, I can't remember what it is, which one it were, announced that the Pentagon couldn't account for something like $2.3 trillion. So they launched that, put it in the public, 9/11 happened, nobody ever thought about that again. And then Building 7, full of all the records, the financial records from the 1980s and other things, gone. But this is because of the subject we're about to enter now. 666. What does it really mean? Okay, so as I said, if you've got for the last symbol, if you've got a little mirror, it will help you to understand something of grave importance. Right, where am I? Now, there's something wrong with this. There's 3 words in there that shouldn't be. And those 3 words, in and of themselves, are the reason why the mundane can never understand what's being said there. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600 threescore and 6. Now the 3 words that shouldn't be in there is him, his, and 100. Those words are not supposed to be in that script. Okay? Because him makes you think it's a man. Where's that gone? That's not supposed to go. Wait a minute. Where's that gone? Sorry. Right, you sod. You won't do that again. I don't know why that's happened. So him is a misnomer. It makes you think of a man. His, again, makes you think of a man. And 100 stops you from seeing that it's 6, a 6, and a 6. Not a count of 100. Right? That is the King James Bible version. So you can be a biblical scholar all your life. And if you have not initiated, you will not understand these things ever. Because they send you off looking to something else. So him, his, and 100 should not be in that phrase. Okay? I'll leave you to work that out yourself. But we're going to get to it. You may understand it as we move through this. So now I'm going to change the images so that they stay. Although that didn't stay and I don't know why. First we're going to have a look at a bit of Roman law. Okay. Right. This is William the Conqueror we're talking about, right? Because he was an Angevin and he brought in the Eastern Roman system. Now, I've gone through this before, but I'll quickly go through it again. The original Christianity on these islands was Druidic. It was dualistic, okay? Because it came after the time of Zarathustra, okay? It was Druidic and it was born on these islands. The initiate, Jesus, which is a title, was initiated here and sent to Palestine to preach. Okay? He was a white guy. Because we are Aryans. So there was an Aryan system. That is what was going on here. Marcion was the first to pull together the canon, which was just the gospel. The gospel is the script of the way out of the Babylon system. Okay? It says William's great prime minister and right-hand man was an Italian Lanfranc who he persuaded to become Archbishop of Canterbury. He should never be forgotten. Why is he doing that? Shouldn't be doing that. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do I have to? We'll try it that way. My apologies. That Lanfranc, although a great prelate and theologian, was most accomplished lawyer well known throughout the world of his time. He had studied and taught Roman law at Pavia in his native Italy. Later, while still a layman, he went to Normandy where he taught the Avranches and Bec. Here it is not at all impossible that Lanfranc gave instruction in law and so prepared the Normans for the great undertaking by supplementing the soldier's task of conquest with the work of the lawyer. It's idle to say that the English law of the new Bologna revival of Roman law, brought to England in the middle of the 12th century by Vicarius. Now, revival of Roman law. Now, we're talking 1066, remember. Now, up to the 1,000 years from the time of the man, the Christianity was what was classed as Celtic. It wasn't Trinitarian. Okay, it was dualistic. The Trinitarian gig came from the East, Constantinople. Remember, Constantine shagged his mother. Yeah? Copying the Egyptian kind of thing. So it was nothing to do with the Druids. A lot went on here before Constantine created the church over there in Constantinople. But the church here in the Western Aryan Christianity was coming out of the monasteries. And the biggest monastery of the day was at Chalon in Burgundy. Okay, this is why once these tossers had took over England, they started to dismantle the monasteries. So there were two completely different Roman theological systems. The Trinitarians came from the East. Now, by the time we get to the Crusades, what's happening there through the Templars, who were Jewish families, Angevins, as was William, they were bringing in a new law, and it was law from the East, but they also brought in the Trinity. Now, we're being told today, like we have always had the Trinity here in the West. We haven't. It was dualistic, okay? And it was Arian. So at this time, you've got all these fruitcakes coming in here, shoving all this shit over what was, we could call Celtic Christianity, but it was Druidic Christianity or Arian Christianity. The 12th and 13th centuries form perhaps the greatest landmark in the history of English law. For the Bologna revival of Roman law reached England in the 12th century, so that's the 1100s. Not long after the school of the Glossators was inaugurated at Bologna, the Lombard Vicarius came over to England in 1149 with Theobald, Archbishop of Canterbury. Vicarius was appointed professor at the Young University of Oxford and began to lecture on Roman law according to the methods employed by the Italian glossators. Vicarius published an abbreviation in 9 books of the Code and Digest of Justinian for the use of students too poor to obtain copies of the originals. Now, Justinian was a Byzantine emperor. The new teaching of Vicarius aroused opposition. That the sources of Roman law, both the Justinian and the anti-Justinian, were becoming known in England. So the original law, Roman law in England, previous to that, because of course Alfred was anointed by the Pope, so that's western side, not eastern side. There's a massive distinction between the two. Now, Charles Martel was the real hero, you might say, back in the day, because he stopped the Saracens and all the fruit bats from taking over Europe. But it's his grandson, Charlemagne, who's took the credit. And Charlemagne is responsible for creating the Holy Roman Empire, the imperial side of it. And that gets lost, I think. Charles Martel was the man. Charlemagne just picked it up. And Charlemagne forced the system in the West to acknowledge him and his everything, all his offspring forever. He forced the leader of the Arian Church to continually acknowledge his offspring in perpetuity, and that he and his offspring would always protect the church. So there you have the divide then in Western Rome, and how the eastern side managed to get itself in. And the Vikings are very important in this, in that the Vikings were very connected to Constantinople because they were the Varangian Guard. Now in Constantinople in this time, you've got leading that system was the Comnene, the House Comnene. And these people were Jewish. They weren't Christians. Now, the Venetians played a very important role in this, in that they were the ones that actually ensured that the Persians took over Constantinople. Now, these people weren't Sunni Muslims, okay? They were a strange version of it coming from the east. And they created the first caliphate in there then and took on the crescent. Now, the crescent moon that's used today is actually, it's not the waxing moon, it's the waning moon. And it's at the point at which the moon is disappearing into the long night of Lilith. Okay? So the moonless night. Now, they picked that up. So that's what were formed in what was Constantinople, made so by the Venetians and the Genoans, the Genovese. Mainly the Venetians at that time. And then they started to corrupt and destroy Aryan Rome, Western Rome, as we know it, and what we are. So that's a bit of history onto that there. But you can see clearly that on the back of William, they're shifting in this new law system, which was Babylonian. Yeah? So the source of Roman law, both Justinian and the anti-Justinian, were becoming known in England by the middle of the 12th century, is attested by the historical writings of William of Malmesbury, who died in 1142. In the 13th century, the study of Roman law was introduced at the new University of Cambridge, and from this time down to the 17th century, the civil law was a study at the English universities and held a rank second only to theology. The 12th century laws of Olerion. During the middle of the 12th century, Roman law entered England by another channel, via France. The second great code of medieval maritime law, the laws of Olerion, was introduced into England from France either by Eleanor, Duchess of Guienne, the wife of Henry II, so that's Eleanor of Aquitaine, the complete mad bitch, who, if you look at when you look at the graves in the cathedral over there in France of Eleanor and Henry II, Eleanor is of the book, so she's of the written word, not the spoken word, right? Jesus was of the spoken word, the Druids were of the spoken word. So the original Christianity was a spoken word gig. This cow brought in the written word, right? Which is a step down, if you understand that gig. And by the Shiftar's son, Richard I. The laws of Oleron were inspired by the earlier Consolato del... and we can't read that. So that's just showing you that there were two separate Romes. We are Aryans and we've been taken over by this shitty side or Eastern Rome. Now, when it came to the first realization of this fact that the East took over the West, we have what we call the Reformation. Okay? Now, in that Reformation and disgust and fear, the Western Christians allowed themselves, and this is the fear side of it, to become subject to the root chakra. So they left the solar plexus, which is what we were born to, and in the fear and disgust at what they'd realised, they allowed themselves to be taken over by the root chakra people, the money lenders, or the negative side of the people of the Torah. And the negative side of the people of the Torah, they hold as their doctrine the Talmud. So this is why England got screwed over, and Cromwell was played a big part into that as well, while giving all the ideas that he was actually doing something good, getting us off the feudal system that they brought in with William the Conqueror. Right? So that gives you an idea as to how they've shifted Western Christendom off the monasteries and the dualistic side into this Trinitarian side that came from the East, right? Run by the Magi, pulled in further by the Templars, okay? So the Templars played their part in that they brought over the Babylonian system and started to implement it across Europe. The Christian monarchs of the day revolted and annihilated the Templars. They were trying to annihilate this system, but unfortunately, what it appears to have happened is they actually took it on themselves because, of course, it gave them even more power. So there then you can see the slow destruction of the old school Christian monarchs, of the Aryan stock, who started to pull in this second gig, and soon became indebted to these bloodlines. Right, so are you keeping up? Should we get rid of that? Now, I don't know whether you're aware of all the data that's available, but Rome created Islam. The Carthaginians, specifically, which was the rulers of North Africa in Carthage. And there's always been a battle between the Roman bloodlines and the Carthaginians. Or you might say the Phoenicians opposing the Trojans, which goes way, way back into the mist of time, which is why Rome was created through Ianus, under Venus and Athena. And as we've looked at before, the Carthaginians came under Juno. So there's been the battle going on in Rome forever. That's the eastern, western side. You can see that playing out. But there was a holy man in Petra before Islam was created. And Rome, the Carthaginian Roman bloodlines created Islam 285 years after the death of the holy man in Petra. Now it says Mohammedan law as the Romans' order of succession, ab intestato, namely, first the descendantus, second the ascendants, and third collaterals. In the Mohammedan law of contracts is found the familiar Roman rule that incapacity may occur because of mental unsoundness, prodigality and bankruptcy. Mohammedan law, like the Romans, has a familiar contracts of sale, letting and hiring, partnerships, loan, deposit agency, suretyship, compromise or transaction assignment, or secession, pledge and mortgage. In the Mohammedan law are found the familiar Roman prescription periods of 3, 10, 20 and 30 years, together with the provision that public or government property is imprescribable, and Mohammedan's law, like the Romans, has a law of guardianship for minors. Law on the source of legal system in Islam is attested by the very name given to jurisprudence in Islam from the beginning. It is called al-fiqh, reasonableness, and those who pursue the study of it are designated faqih, singular faqih. I hope I'm saying that right. These terms, which we cannot fail to see, are Arabic translations of the Roman jurisprudentia and prudentes, would be a clear indication of one of the chief sources of Islamic jurisprudence, even if we had no positive data to prove that this influence extended both to question of the principle of legal deduction and to particular legal provisions. Finally, the influence of Roman legal methods on the system of legal deduction in Islam is even more important than the direct adoption of particular points of law. The dualism of written law, Arabic nas, and unwritten law is a mere reflection of the dualism of leges scriptae, or chakahimin, and legis non scriptae. Curiously enough, and yet it is really not all strange, the Islamic prudentes assume the prerogative of an authoritative subjective opinio, for raj, as it is called in Arabic, is a literal translation of the Latin term. Instances of the similarity of Mohammedan and Roman law, the principles of the several characteristic systems or rights of Mohammedan law, allowing for slight variations in detail, recall the common principles and often the specific rules of Roman law at almost every juncture. The similarity of Mohammedan and Roman law will be seen from the following instances. Mohammedan law, like the Roman, distinguishes between movable and immovable property and contains the Roman legal institutions of usufruct and servitudes. In Mohammedan law, it is in the Roman wills may be written or verbal, and the testator cannot dispose of all his property and leave his heirs nothing. Okay? Now, remember, this is Roman law before the eastern side, which is what became Byzantium and the Caliphate, had taken over Western Rome. Okay? So there's the similarities in its origins when Rome was Aryan. There's something else coming from the east here. This not only took over Judaism and the people of the Torah, it took over Christianity through the Crusades and through the installation of 1066 on England, and it took over Islam through the oral law, which we discussed when we went through the Order of the Mystic Shrine. Okay, you've got to be keeping up with this, and you can always go back. Commenters were available to give the law. Again, at Damascus, the entire Roman judicial system lasted a century after Arab conquest. The Roman law schools of Beirut and Alexandria continued for over a century after the Mohammedan conquest of Syria and Egypt. The Mohammedan jurists Anzay and Shafi'i, the latter one of the four founders of Islamic legislation, were admittedly well acquainted with Greco-Roman law as enforced in Syria. The founders of the Islamic legal system, who lived during the 7th and 10th centuries, the era of activity of Byzantine Roman law, borrowed as much as was not inconsistent with Mohammedanism from the law of Justinian in its Greek dress, but not wishing to appear as borrowers. So you can see that when we get into the 11th century, that this Byzantine system is starting to shift itself over into Sunni Islam. Right. Right, so that's that. Right, so let me just, I'll put this back in before I sod off. Oh, what the hell have I done there? Right, sod that. Now, okay. So now we need to look at why Rome's at the foot of all this, but it's not Aryan Rome, it's this Eastern shit gig that's took it over. So we go to Thomas Aquinas, and he lived in the 13th century, which is the 1200s. But his De Regimine Principum and Summa are still taught in the Catholic seminaries. Pope Leo XIII, in his encyclical of 1879, commanded that all doctrines of Aquinas should be taught. So 1879 here, chaps. Yes, this is after Napoleon, this is after Knights of Malta have been subdued and forced under the Jesuits, who become the Prussian system under Catherine the Great after they've been kicked out of the Vatican. So again, this is showing that we're now dealing specifically with the Eastern gig. Commanded that all doctrines of Aquinas should be taught. And that command, like all of the papal commands, is still law in the Catholic Church. I can give you only a snatch of its present day Catholic teaching here, and here it is verbatim et literatim. The Church of Rome is one monarchy over all the kingdoms of the earth, and is among the temporal kingdoms, as the mind or soul in the body of man, or as God in the world. The Church of Rome was instituted by Christ to direct men into the ultimate end of man, and therefore must be unerring, and must also govern all secondary ends, must order everything which has the least relation to the ultimate end, whether it helps or obstructs men in reaching the end. Therefore, the Church of Rome must not only have all spiritual power, but also the supreme temporal power. And this is the Eastern Orthodox Rome, which cemented itself in Russia. When Catherine the Great, a Prussian, killed the last Romanov, Peter III. Okay? So Russia was taken over by this Eastern system through the Prussians, the whole of the Roman Empire, a long, long time ago. This is why Russia's important, and this is why Russia is the problem. Right? Now then. Remember, Eastern Rome was Catholic, we were Aryan. They've lost that in history deliberately, so that we don't understand our own history. The Beast of Revelation 13, David S. Phelan, a priest in St. Louis, wrote in 1913. Tell us we are Catholics first and Americans or Englishmen afterwards. Of course we are. Tell us, in the conflict between the church and the civil government, we take the side of the church. Of course we do. Why, if the government of the United States were at war with the church, we would say tomorrow, to hell with the government of the United States. And if the church and all the governments of the world were at war, we would say, to hell with all the governments of the world. Why is it that in this country, where we have only 7% of the population, the Catholic Church is so much feared? She is loved by all the children and feared by everybody, due to the history of the Jesuit order. Why is it the Pope has such tremendous power? Why the Pope is the ruler of the world? All the emperors, all the kings, all the princes, all the presidents of the world are as these altar boys of mine. Okay? Now, remember, the Reformation is when the Arians realized the East had took over the East, but in the fear of that system, they became subject to the negative side of the root chakra, which is the frequency afforded to the children of the Torah, because the Talmud was running the show. Keep up with this because it's important. Alright, it's important. Now then, we're going to now get into some symbols, okay? Because now I'm going to get into showing you what 666 really means, okay? And keep in mind those 3 words that should not be in that phrase found in the King James Bible. And any other Bible that you find those 3 words in it, okay? It's a blag. It's a blag for the temporal, so that you don't see the real. Right. So the Star of David, nowhere in the Bible or the Talmud is this referenced as the Star of David. So it's not even referenced in the Talmud. However, the Bible does reference this to be the Star of Remphan, belonging to Molech. Okay? And he's put in brackets Satan. But even the Saturn connection isn't what you think. Now there you can see the square and compass of the Freemasonry mimicking this Star of Remphan. And if you look to the top right, you can see that within the Star of Remphan is the cube. The cube is the important gig that we're learning about today. Alright? It's very important that you get this. Now, if you look at Saturn here on the bottom left, you can see the octagon. But the octagon and the cube are the same thing, because they reference the number 6. Okay, it's very important. Now, the hexagram as well as the hexagon is simply a cube in the 2D. And there you are, the Star of Remphan, and there you've got the cube inside it there. You've got I can't see it. I thought they might be bigger than this. So I don't know why it's gone that small. And there we have the cube in 3D, the Merkaba. And it can be put into the cube. 3 dimensions, height, width and length. Okay? So there's your number 3 in the Masonic. And we have the hexagon is perfected version of the cube. Okay? Now, the Muslims, originally, the Kaaba was a rectangle. So it wasn't called the Kaaba, because the Kaaba in English means cube. Okay? So here again we can see that all 3 religions in the garden are not referencing the balanced state. Okay, you get that? Right. Now then, Again, here you've got Star Remphan, you've got the cube in the centre. Here you've got another cube that's found in Freemasonry showing that it references the three religions. Okay, so the cube and the three religions as they stand are referencing the cube. Now here we have, this is the on the right is the Jewish word in the cube. This is Abad Lubavitch, by the way. This is not Torah Jews. They're not supposed to be doing this. This is Talmudic. Abad Lubavitch gives this Zohar stuff, and it gives you dimensions, etc. As though it's got to be done in a particular way. And of course, over in Mecca, we've got the cube again, two towers in that depiction. And then we've got a Masonic keystone there, again a cube. Now look at this. This is a cross, which is a 2D version of a cube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? 6. The cube represents 6 as a number. Where are we now? And here you can see, same again, but there's a Jewish guy, Abad Lubavitch, wearing the cube. That's how they wear it. Now, I used to have depictions of some Muslim sects wearing the cube, but it mainly in the Sufis side of things, which is the Trinitarians who came after Zarathustra. When Zarathustra created what was the Mithra tradition into a dualistic tradition, then it was taken over again and turned into a Trinitarian position. Okay, in the East. But I haven't been able to locate that image, unfortunately, so my apologies. So this is why the Mithra side of things is very important as well. Now here's some more cubes, and then the next image, the last image, is going to be where the mirror will come in handy if you've actually got one to hand. So here we go. Now we can show the Masonic side of the cube. That is a Masonic cross which folds up into a cube, and it's got its Masonic sigils on it, etc. There you've got a Masonic cube again representing the Satanism, the Masonic, and then on the others you've got references to Christianity and Islam. Here we have the Masonic apron representing the cube, the square and compass. To the right bottom you've got the Knights Templar representation of the cube. And you've got a cross in the old Roman tradition again. Now here in the middle at the bottom you've got the Shriner's cube, which has got the sword. This is where your decapitation comes in, and we looked at the Order of the Mystic Shrine, did we not? And then here you've got the Cosmic Ashlar inspired piece of dialogue between Muslims and Jews. And again, you've got the two towers and you've got the cube. Now what does all this mean? Okay, so we've been through, have we not, the chakras. And I've explained to you, have I not, that the first three chakras are the garden depicted in Genesis 2. Okay? It's not Genesis 1, man, in the image of. No, man fell and he had to be kept below the heart chakra. Okay? That's the garden. So the fall of man created this garden, and that is the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus. Now the root chakra, its doctrine is the Torah. Okay? Remember, these chakras are wheels. The wheels of light. And when they're spinning correctly, they emit a particular frequency. But when they're not spinning correctly, and that is entirely down to our character as a soul in this avatar. Right? Our character determines whether these chakras are spinning correctly or not. Now the Torah, the Old Testament, its essence is you're learning that to survive correctly, you have to learn brotherhood, the love of your fellow man. And the term used is do unto others as you would have done to yourself. Right? So once you've learned that, that's spinning correctly, you're dealing then with the sacral chakra, which is your sexual energy. Okay? Now, the balanced sexual energy, when the chakra is spinning correctly and the correct frequency is on, you've understood that the sexual energy is there to create. It's fertility. And it's to create the image of the Heavenly Father. Is it not? Genesis 1. Right? That's when it's working correctly. And when you've got those two bagged, maybe in your past lives, you'll be born into what was the Aryan Christianity civilization. And in there you're dealing with the solar energy. Now the prime motivation in there, after you've succeeded in getting the root and the sacral, so you've got the idea of survival isn't to kill everybody else to feel safe. You've understood the sexual energy, so you've no thoughts of enslaving people, of raping people, of having mass harems of females. You've understood that energy, that it's a procreative, beautiful energy. And in order to create something good in the image of, you have to have a loving relationship with the female to create that image of the Elohim. Okay? Those two are balanced, you're into the solar energy. Now in the solar energy, which is when you're born into under the Christian mantle, not the religious side of it, the kingdom from within. Remember, you're taking all this from within. Then the prime motive in that to succeed is to take full responsibility for everything you do, everything that's going on in your life. Okay? Then that's spinning correctly. When you've got all those three in the bag, she, the Queen of Heaven, will open the door and you will go into heaven while you're here. The next sign for that's accomplished is you will see in the fifth dimension. You have sight in that dimension, depicted in the old school stuff as the blue people. Okay? Right, now, that understood. What does 666 mean? Why? So okay, back to the cube. The cube references Saturn. Saturn is the great restrictor. It will not let you pass until you get each frequency correct. Now, the negative of the root chakra is that you believe the only way you can survive is to kill everybody else or at least control them. The doctrine for that, to keep you fixed into the negative and think it's okay, is the Talmud. Right? So you've not learned from the Torah that all the narratives in the Torah is showing you what happens when you can't see. That it's love that will give you the best survival rate. Loving your fellow man, treating your fellow man as you wish to be treated. They can't do it. They have another doctrine, the Talmud. Fixes them in the negative, there God said. The sacral chakra, as a script, when you're negative on the sexual energy, because you have rape thoughts in your mind, entrapment of the females, harems, because the means and method to achieving that is war. War gives you the ability to rape, to enslave, and to collect slaves, females. Islam is a war doctrine. Islam is not a biblical tradition. It's an antithesis of the biblical tradition. The term Jesus is a title, as is the term Merlin. So they misunderstand that by thinking and believing that the man himself went to India. No, a man went to India with the title Jesus. Wasn't the man that we're talking about. Okay, so the negative of not being able to come to terms with the sexual energy is a war doctrine. Because war is screwed up sexual energy. That's what it is. That's what drives it. That's why so many soldiers come back from war and they've done things they shouldn't. And they're never the same again. Now the negative of the solar plexus, and this is important guys, because this is what you need to recognise, and it's the overriding narrative I've been giving you right from the start. If you give up responsibility for self to a doctor, to a psychologist, to a priest, to a government, to a god, to aliens, you failed. You're running the negative in the solar plexus. You're blaming everything outside yourself. The cube represents the number 6. Okay? The cube is controlling the negative of the root chakra. It's controlling the negative of the sacral chakra, the sex. And it's controlling the negative of the solar plexus. It's an inversion if you're going from the solar plexus down. So now the root, the negative of the root, is controlling the garden, and they call it Judaism, and it's not. It's Talmudism. And the rulers of this world have handed it over to the negative side of the root chakra. That's the punishment. That's what Fatima was telling us in the third secret. Now, if you've got your mirror handy, I'm going to show you this final symbol. Where are we? Let me just... Now, connotations with Saturn is because Saturn is the great restrictor, so you would see him as an evil god. Because you want to do the negative of the root chakra. You want to do the negative of the sacral chakra. You want to continue the negative of the solar plexus by giving up your entire life to doctors, to governments, to aliens, to gods, to psychologists, to everybody but yourself. Now this symbol, if you look, has a soldier's helmet on there. Now if you take your mirror and place it to the right side of that symbol, then flick your mirror flat against the screen, and that image you can see in that mirror is the man described, 666. It's you. It's not a man on his own. They're going to give you a prince to run the negative aspects of you in the garden. That is the truth and reality of what 666 actually means. And as I said to you, hang on, there's 3 words that should not be in this. I don't know why it's not coming up. Right, it's not coming up. There's 3 words that should not be in that phrase. Him, his, and 100. Because you focus it and think it's somebody else over there. It's the man, the version of the man that exists today in the world. Because it's the negative of each chakra in the garden. below the heart. That, ladies and gentlemen, puts you at almost the midpoint of the mystery school. The second half of the mystery school is the difficult part, because now you've faced the dweller on the threshold. You. How are you going to move out of that? Because you need to pull those three chakras back so they're spinning correctly. They need to be on the right frequency. Because these systems that are piling down on everybody now rule the negative. The 6 at the root, the 6 at the sacral, the 6 at the solar, the cube. You're fixed to the cube. The system that fixed the solar plexus was the legal system. 2 accounts, the dead and the alive. Walking on water. The Gospels are the path out of the Babylonian system. Walking on water. It doesn't happen in physics in this realm. It's walking on the sea of commerce. Raising Lazarus from the dead, doesn't happen. It's against the physics of this realm. It's showing you how you shift from the dead side to the life side. The Gospels is the way out. And what have they done now? The Fatima prophecy is showing you that in that failure, now the root chakra and the sacral chakra, war, is going to remove the gospel from this place. That's what it wants to do. It wants to remove the gospels and its teaching from man. So the return of the gospel has to be when man realizes that very reality. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will bid you good night and say, till the next time.
Geopolitical.